Hello, nice to see you, nice to meet you. Pleasure to have usually nobody coming in directly on the stream. So that's fine, and thank you. Nice to have you though when you come in. Rothland is playing in Pennsylvania in a hotel lobby right now. It doesn't sound like them to me. Maybe they do a lot of really good structured stuff that happens to pertain with jazz. I can't quite tell. But they are a straightforward rock outfit that we will be performing with across the states. We got definitely confirmed 2 dates with him. Might be another date in Ohio. Kristen, nice to see you. So we're stateside, broadside on a porch step in an undisclosed location. And don't disclose it because I will be very irritated with you, girl. Say hello. Type something. And we got somebody that looks like they're from Colorado. It looks like a familiar place that I used to live. You don't need to confirm or deny it. It's a nice place. It just reminds me of it. Beautiful, beautiful. I did about 3.5 mile walk to the bar, seeing as I didn't have a vehicle when I joined a company out there to do some fire alarm work in it was like 10 city blocks or something crazy. It was huge. But thank you, Kristen, for the like and retweet going on there. Let's see, what can we do here? Well, beside me is a bunch of things. Okay, I got some art that I'm working on. And what I'm doing with that art is going to be trying to sell about 5 pieces at about $100 a pop. Sliding scale. It's all donation. It's just going ahead and what do you call it? Help David Pullman from Florida. He's a blind, disabled retiree who has always stayed in the field and still is interested in experimenting with new forms of technology to assist with. I don't care if he's looking for me. He's always looking for me. He's an irritant. It's like a bad rash. Having a brother that isn't mindful as well as he should be. He's mindful in his world, and his world is fucking so demented. It's terrifying. Nice to have you, kind friend, for stopping by, Christy Ritter. Being a journalist and an author, are you related to the Ritter we all know and love? Good old John. Nope, no comment because you walk away. Nice hair, pal. I don't know if that's a stock photo or not, but that's crazy. Football faith, huh? Can you tell me a little bit about football faith? How it pertains? No, you can't, because everybody keeps saying, screw this. I'm all set. Okay. Strike 5. You, kind friend, RP Rokick. You're live, and you're an ex-NASA guy. We would like to think that's all true, and I hope it is. It's dicey for me to go ahead and play music tonight, so I can't go ahead and do that. But I can work on my art, so I can go ahead and flip the camera so you see what I see and I see what you see, and we can, once I get some things together. I just don't think I have all the products with me to really work efficiently as I'd like to. But that's the result of living a homeless lifestyle for 8+ years. So I am a union electrician, but that doesn't come around that much. You have to retype that, Kristen. That makes 0 sense. Oh, yeah? Oh, yard sale, huh? When? Today, tomorrow? Probably tomorrow, right? Or you already went? I don't have any money on me, so I can't go ahead and go to a yard sale. It'd be like, I could look. I might be able to do some trades, but that's about all I'd be able to do at a yard sale these days. Going on tour, that'll be fun. Hopefully pick up some spare change, um, with which I don't tend to keep because I don't work for money, I work with money. It's not a slave master to me at all. Just look for a good night rest, a warm area, depending on the environment, depends on if I can do it outside. Um, my parents say I live, eat, sleep, and shit. I say, yeah, I do that. You do too. And everybody else does, thankfully. But beyond that, I do a whole lot more. I'm always interpreting, integrating, and processing every kind friend that I meet. I can't divulge all the methods that I work with money. You'd have to meet me in person, as I don't like to, like I say, give too much pertinent data to be used in the wrong methods, because I like to set it up when I give data that there's a verbal and physical contract present, depending on the type of data I'm transmitting to the other person for purposes unbeknownst to me. Because I don't know what these people are seeking for. They could tell me it's for education, they could tell me it's for research, but ultimately everybody's got their own inner agenda, like it or not. And then there's other people that have agendas beyond them that if they knew that I spoke to somebody, they'd try and leak that information out of them. There's a lot of chips on the table that have been in play forever. We're down to the last few moves, if you will. Currently, I've just been moving back and forth between a couple spaces, keeping the game in play, but at a stalemate. What's cool about doing that is at the same time that you're just moving two pieces, quantum mechanics states that the entire rest of the game is at play in different facets at the same time. So it's no longer just a board game that is stagnant. It's ever changing, even though you just happen to be moving your piece one method, they move theirs. Everything else around all these other pieces have changed position or stayed static. That's life, folks. It's another dead process, just like we happen to be a dead process. Reincarnation does exist, and it's easy to know that just by understanding cell propagation. For cell propagation to have occurred, we needed the Big Bang initially. And the initial Big Bang has many theories. One theory I was able to culminate myself between grouping up various findings of scientists, and here's my report. My report for that is there was, they say within a vacuum, there is nothing, right? Turns out they got an instrument that was able to detect something. And what ends up happening is some sort of flux field creates a positron and a proton, and then an ion and things of that nature. I don't know which one comes first, but the positron probably does come first because that one's can flow forwards and backwards in time pretty much. It flows backwards typically, I believe. Like I said, I just found out this information, so take the actual words and look them up on Google, and you'll find their definitions in their proper place where they belong. It's new information to me. but I've always been exploring the cosmos as best I physically can and know how to achieve with the limited funds and instruments that I can get my hands on. I work with a lot of psychedelics and things like that from time to time. I have yet to re-enter that field. I want to get a hold of maps as they are certified to use such species and substances. So they are a multicultural, what do they call that? You're time traveling now, girl. We're moving forward in time. And at the same time, we're all moving forward. There's other people on this planet that time's being dilated for. So we're never all in the same moment. It's impossible. This whole God structure is just a bunch of simultaneous bullshit interacting and processing simultaneously. Back to how we're a dead process and how reincarnation is actually possible and is occurring. Stem cells, they're just blank. They just need programming. You get a stem cell, you can pull stem cells out of just about anything nowadays. They're starting to find. We have 80 stem cells in our brain. You start using those 80 stem cells that last about 80 years. Looks like you can go ahead and clone yourself at any age that you happen to get something extracted. Methods of extraction? Go ahead, call your FBI and hook yourself up with some aliens. They'll extract it that way if you didn't want to go through surgery. Or they'll implant something at the same time, because it's like a two-way street. You don't want to fuck with those clowns. They'll fuck right back. Back to the dead processes. So the positrons and protons, they move forwards and backwards in times. The positrons do. And protons are moving forward. So this clash of fields is creating another void as the two forces are going in their own direction, but the gravity is holding them within cycle, and that's how they eventually form an atom. Now, once you get a group of atoms, then you get eventually more expansion, more atoms, more groupings, and we eventually had galaxies form. Over all the cooling and the time that it took to get there, we eventually started to have some forms of life in the forms of water, especially, I think was said to be one of the first things to come. Was there life before the water? Possibly, quite probable. Did that old life form die and reincarnate? Most definitely. It reincarnated into a new form, most likely, because it had to then adapt to the water cycle. Or it had to wait until the water cycle died down just enough so an area where it once lived got risen to the surface and then became something else. We're always dealing with quantum physics, and I'm talking about it anyhow. So back to how we're a dead process, and we're may as well be perceived as living in not just heaven, hell, purgatory, everything in between. This is all you happen to know. A death cycle that I may or may not have experienced to its entirety winds up bringing me back into my body eventually. And I chose to come back into within the past, since 2012 to around now. So I always jump into 2013, typically 2014 has been my latest upload that I'm able to download, because our Gen X is just software. We are perceived as being hardware when we're complete and functional in consciousness, but we're ultimately just software down to the nitty-gritty of a microscope. So, how are we dead? Simple. We are not a live process. We are a bunch of enzymes communicating with other enzymes, and each time an enzyme meets up with another enzyme, they both die, and one new one gets created. So if all these things are enzymes and things like that going on in our bodies, doing this shit, and our cell base on our skin suit regenerates every 7 years, so every 7 years we're a totally new being in its entirety, but at the same time is still defragmenting and reformulating for the next cycle of 7 years. So we're never the same thing twice. Each breath you take, you're a different man. So you can be born every single time you decide, I need a new life, I need a new change, a new direction. And take into account that you're also a dead process. So once you do pass through the other side, you get to choose to stay there for quite a while, make a lot of questions, maybe get some answers, come back with more amnesia, or come back with quite a bit of remembrance. And also, predestination does occur. You can go ahead and predestine yourself towards different things. Use self-hypnosis. That's one method. Self-hypnosis is stronger than God, I'm finding, because I asked God to break my self-hypnosis in regards to if I jump, it won't break my leg, and I jumped, it broke my leg. So there in code lies God doesn't exist except a function as yourself. You are a proxy incarnate version of God, the devil, and Bob. You need to balance yourself. And I'm an atheist, by the way, because of working with God so closely and intently all my life and finding out that he's just nothing more than a mere function. He's a vast form of functions, and I'm just not tapping into where I can communicate with just one guy besides myself, or a few other entities that aren't calling themselves God, or anything of the like. So, does anybody need any more explanation as to how we are actually dead and traveling as being perceived alive? Because ultimately, the skin cell that's here doesn't know shit. Skin cell over there don't know shit. Hair cells, etc. They don't know anything. They're just processing and gathering data. Same with our glands. Each thing is just working separately from everything else, but is amongst a whole. So now that you know that yourself is a bunch of bullshit and can be quite separated to next to nothing, and that's where the existentialists say, this is the Eiffel Tower, even though it's your ground. It's like, well, you could start to think and manifest it there, and in doing so, you'll have a picture in your mind. You actually might be able to do like some yogis and actually change the composition of the land around you. You can go, these yogis can go ahead and put their hands on stone and leave a handprint, a footprint. They can fly. They can promote their aura so strong that it could be seen and felt physically by other people. And camera photography. So there is evidence of a lot of things. And these same yogis that can get to those higher states are the same guys that when they die, their body shrinks. Do I have a TARDIS? The only TARDIS I have is in my hand right now. And in my hand is an iPad Air 2. So that to me is quite like a TARDIS. Beyond that, it's in conjunction with that and this entity that is able to create this as a portal of not just thought time processes, but none of the 12 of you could be gathering any information had I not procured such devices and found such program that we all founded. Notice how I said we all founded this. We all founded this because we are all part of the same race, supposedly, or at least an interspecies integrated process that became such a group function. Just like God is not anywhere near being one entity that knows everything, unless it is. And guess what? I'm that guy, and I decided to separate everything and only close the door when I die. Just like whenever you close your door for death, you close the whole world away temporarily, because it is what is bigger on the inside. Oh, is it bigger on the inside? I think the inner self is the smallest thing in the world. I think it is so unidentifiable. Let's go ahead and call TARDIS a chemical that gets excreted. Let's go ahead and just call that chemical DMT, for fuck's sake. They've done a lot dealing with DMT, knowing that not just the pineal gland's excretions coupled with the MAOI inhibitor that we can excrete at the same time, making it psychoactive. We have DMT on the outside of our eyeballs 24 hours a day. It's just inactive because of no MAOI inhibitor. Go ahead and drop an MAOI inhibitor on your eyeballs. You will probably trip out, especially if you talk to me at the same time. All serious, all giggles aside, cosmic back. The cosmic back. Yeah, think about that. Does the cosmos have a backside? And is that backside just like the magic statement, as above, so below? So then you're just thinking about heavens, hells, or inverse, like going inside of a black hole, how a black hole actually on the outside, they've found that it is a holographic version of everything that occurred falling into it. And it's, even though everything that occurred falling into it got squished and pressed, as soon as just before, it wound up taking an iris styled Photoshop. So it's interesting. Thank you. My parents want me to lop it off. I want to wait until I don't want enough of it, and then I'll cut that portion off or shave my whole head and give it to some specific kind person that requires a full lock of hair. I need to know the person quite well. I don't want to give it to a charity. I want to give it to a soul, an entity. And I don't think corporations have souls. They're a bunch of paperwork. It's only when you get certain group functions can you actually start separating the fact that you may or may not be a dead process, which is why so many of us believe we are alive. Which is beautiful, it's good. It's good to think you're alive, but guess what? Don't get too hung up on the death factor, because you can get back right into the game in a new body or the same old body. I've been there, done that too many fucking times. It's fun, but it sucks, because then you're having to redo a lot of shit, and you're wondering, did anybody remember me? More than likely, they won't, because most people don't know me from a hill of bones. From a hill of bones, they won't know me. You find my bones somewhere, you'd be like, hey, they're just bones. It's the truth. I'd be saying the same thing if I met your bones. Then, of course, I'd be finding out. I probably wouldn't necessarily call the authorities, knowing myself. I'd get them involved after, depending on the location that I found them, and in what degree they were left. But if it was like I noticed something that an animal took out a man or something, I'd be more interested to do a little investigation myself before I gave it away to the other forms of governments. Because government is governus mente. That is to control the mind. That's Latin, governus and mente. I believe that they're trying to tell me I'm a clone. I don't think I've ever been a clone, but I do think I've died, so I very well may be a clone. I don't fucking know. I don't mind. It feels the same. I feel the same. So if they got that cloning technology and they got it down this pat, I'm fine with it. Like I said, I've broken this leg times in multiple timelines. I've come back in many timelines. Sometimes we've stayed in the same timeline, and in doing so, what ends up happening is, and by the way, when I regenerate with everybody that was around me at that time. I made verbal contracts with these sons of bitches to go ahead and make sure, yes, I am a Time Lord. I'm going to make sure that each and every one of us had every single capability that I can discover. Just like the people that are the scientists that give us the internet and gave us the internet. Remember, that was developed in like the 70s to go ahead and have better communications between Russia so we would stop this Cold War. And then they gave us the internet to the public. I remember using the internet. I'm only 31, by the way, but I'm actually eons old, because that's how I got to be the Time Lord of all things. Salvia divinorum is the extract of an acid out of that, salvinorin A, an extract of 40 to 60x of that. I tried it once. It didn't bring me there. It just split my body in half, and I felt a little weird. I didn't have enough esoteric knowledge to be able to go and dispense that we all are proxy versions, incarnate, God, devil, and Bob. And I wrote the time code well enough to be able to, I don't know where that is. And I don't read that as being a code that I need to understand as Gallifrey. Gallivanting is all I can understand that as being. And yeah, of course I'm in Gallifrey then, because I am gallivanting. I don't exist in one location. I've been registered homeless for many years. It's also to keep myself off the grid a little bit further from the government agents that like fucking with me. And yeah, they follow me. There's this one guy, Neocon Atheist 5. You'll see him on the on this meerkat. Reason being is he's the clown that's saying I'm a clone and all this other guys. And then there's a psychotherapist that's a really nice guy. He may or may not be a psychotherapist. Remember, Carl Jung, I appreciate his ethics when it came down to working with ill patients, especially the crazed women. So, what he did in comparison to Freud was, yeah, they both slept with their patients off and on. Who gives a shit? It's kind of hot when you think about it, right? Teach their own perversions. I like paper cuts. Do I? I don't know. That's the whole thing about being a Time Lord. You also have special powers that nobody else knows about. You can recode and encode at any time. It all depends on which entities you get to leave the code to, and hopefully it gets to the right sources so you don't die and not come back. Otherwise, who knows what's going to happen next. I haven't done that yet because I keep coming back. Forget what I was mentioning before I relieved myself and figured out that you had a comment. Let me think. I'm a drummer, musician, going on tour. If anybody would like me to stop by their high school, college, middle school, I'm more than welcome to do a conversation there. I'd love to, even if it's just as simple as rattling off some poetry. Because the poetry is obviously going to be quite intelligent, and here's some as so. We'll start off with the introductions to all ourselves. This kind friend till the end, with or without his peoples. You too are this kind friend till the end, with or without your own peoples. As studied studies triumph the polar bear, and instinct becomes extinct periodically. As we get strong when we're dying, you get stronger as you're dying. And then back to the polar bears and then instinct extinct. And this is how you reformat and recode and reformulate any which possibility you decide to call and postulate upon. Postulate to think that poetry has to reason and rhyme. It's quite helpful all the time. But no necessity states that I need to go ahead and punctuate. Inflection, tone, grace, and flow. Thought process is not always necessary still. As you can go with in to out to, you will be through to, you to, me to will be to. Into and out to and through. There's a monkey on your back and he's got a key. He's got your key. What's with that monkey? He knows you happen to have been that key holder of into, out to. He wants to go out to and through to, you to and me to, so that these two will be two. This is a story of pretty much stating that Darwin wants us to be known as being evolved to have become something, and he liked to decide on one species that we came from. Well, what if we're always a little bit of everything? Because remember, you go ahead and rub a frog on you enough, or you lick certain parts of them, you're gonna be in a different world. But if you keep like injecting yourself with other DNAs, you're gonna be different. That's like quick to hopefully see some changes or get some illnesses, right? Going ahead and injection. But if you were to just start rubbing these things, obviously a little bit of part of them is going to be part of you now. Certain aspects of certain species are really good for us to ingest and eat. Honey and cinnamon is pretty much one of the biggest health benefits of all time. Depends on the combinations and when time frame and things like that. Look it up. They made a huge, massive chain email in regards to it. So that's cinnamon and honey combinations for health. Let's see. See, why do you only think a Time Lord has 13 lives? Is that why I keep falling into 2013? Or thinking even though I'm in 2014, I got rules from 2013 that I created? Because I co-authored all our story. And you co-author me back. So I don't always have an upper hand, even though I'm pretty fucking good at my job. If I wasn't good, I wouldn't be feeling as well as I do. Because there's been plenty of portions of time where too many negative agencies, let's call it, had too much power. And it could have just been one person out of one agency. With enough information, remember, they're not going to spread themselves thin to go after one guy. they take all the information, all the database information. That's why we have all this internet stuff so freely given to us. It's falsity of freedom. If we still have a government, the only government I adhere to is my own. I'm my own governance-mente, and my governance-mente instates at any free will. I have a bunch of blank fucking papers that I write on these. This is how I see the world. I'm God as a function. So now the whole world's mine, and it's called Australia. They go ahead and imprison me. I'm going to Australia somewhere. Even if my Australia is just circumvented as then being Earth, and then I call everything else Earth, Texas, or wherever they decide to throw me, right? That's if I can get out of it easily. If I don't, that means they say you're going to Guantanamo Bay, and then they're going to start working on me psychically and all sorts of garbage. Reason being is because I won't even let them get a foot on my property. I got sound techniques that can go ahead and keep people at bay, hurt the shit out of them. I use unusual forms of defense. But enough about me, enough about government, enough about how you can actually take over anything and change it. Alternatively, augmentation. We got 24 people sound in here, 92 people have passed through. If you could tweet, like, and follow this, that would be great. I am trying to perform an impromptu fundraiser every few minutes or so. You might hear me talk about asking for funds for David Pullman. He's a blind man in Florida that is a retired, he's been disabled his whole life. Like I said, he's unsighted. So he's been doing a lot of things over the years, working with computers to make them more adaptable for the blind. And he wants to build some, he wants to just stay in tune with what he is retired from. I'm like, well, they were quite reasonable. They were a grand. That was in 2014. 2015, you could pick up an iPad Air 2, 4G, 128 gigabytes for approximately, what do you call it? $420 to $500. I'm pleased with that number. I got mine for $650. I had it for $615 at first, and then they never shipped it. Shipping got all squirrely. And I know why. All my shipments at that point got squirrely because I fucked with them too hard. I was like, oh shit. So I take the damages, I take the time, I do go ahead and have to go to prison, but I'm never in a physical prison because ultimately I'm my own prison. And everybody is my prisoner if I'm as well with me, but I give them free will because I'm such a fucking nice guy. Try to be. I wish the people that are locking certain people up would start thinking a lot more like me and stop locking these people up. We need to start breaking apart a lot of the machines and at work. By machines, I'm talking about corporations and institutions. We need to give more freedom for different classes to be brought back in, whether it be in the form of music or art. I want to start doing an art class and having people be their own government. I want to see it happen. Yeah, we'll have 7 billion different governments, but a lot of these governments, whenever you're a micronation, I've looked into it. Whenever you're a micronation, you're still under the codes and laws of the governing body that's there. Well, seeing as I'm augmented and quite established, by the way, I don't know how long was your 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. I know how long mine were. And then I didn't know how long they were anymore. So case in point, I'm not a threat. I'm not an issue. We are all not a threat, all not an issue. We can all do these things. They're doing it to us just on a global and very physical scale. They use a lot of legal jargon. Remember, we use a lot of street talk. Well, we also understand legal jargon. And then we talk, some of the people I've heard that are like more like the really hardcore idiots of the planet, they splice in so much street talk and very little law linguistics that you're like, you can't make heads or tails or even safe edible sausage out of the shit they've made. It's like, what the fuck? So you need to know what the hell direction you're going for when you're instituting contracts, because everything is contractual. And things can be revoked. You can take them back. You can get rid of yourself from the U.S. government if you want to entirely by dealing with the UCC-1. That is the Universal Commercial Code. So if you get rid of yourself from the UCC-1, great. But I bet they will do what I do and re-augment whatever they're doing and still keep the $1.65 billion that we are all worth and have been invested as whenever we're born and put on a London market. Even if these tragedies and atrocities that I just mentioned about our 1.65 billion being used by governments to further enslave us and scare the shit out of us and say that we can't keep proper shelter over our heads, even though we still have so many proper abandoned shelters available to all of us. You see animals. What do animals do? They see an empty burrow, they use it. The other person that owns it comes back, what happens? Either a scuffle or they join forces. You don't know what species took over your home until you come back to your home. That's why you got a lot of squatters kicking around in Europe. They do have laws for them to protect them, the squatters. Problem with the squatters, though, is a lot of them have a shit mentality when it comes to applying proper moral ethics and code when it comes to when the owner, the true owner, come home. But the true owner needs to realize, hey, if you're not using the property and you're not interested, most of these guys are more than apt going to clean and fix it up, especially as you get more people away from feeling they have to be ground to dirt or look so good to be a slave to an asshole that looks supposedly better or worse than them. It's like, oh my word, bosses, bosses, bosses. Hey, Pop Culture 27, glad to have you here, friend. I think I'm going to be doing another film later this evening or something in regards to Chappie. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm interested in discussing true findings firsthand with all the people that would like to watch that. It will be a beautiful cropped version, I believe. It's just crystal clear. From some kind friend out there. Kind friends, actually, plural. So that's the way the world works when we want to work with it. If you want to work against it, it will bite you in the ass. So keep the parties that you like around you. Everybody else that's negative is just leave them alone and try and find more people that you can be with so you don't have to spend any more time with those negative parties. All right. End of this discussion is, and I will be scheduling the film. I don't know what I'll title it, but it'll be my next stream. I wanted to leave you with this. We can all affect and affect the future. And I gotta go for now. I just got a couple new messages. I was just reading them. That's why it seemed like I was distracted or lost in thought. I appreciate all you guys' time. Again, I'm going to be doing Chappie tonight. Watching Chappie and with some discussion either during scenes that I can communicate so it won't fully interrupt the film. I do know we're all watching it together. We had 165 people come by and sit down through 2 showings. 2 full-length running showings of 2 hours of Tomorrowland. It was amazing. I thank you all for having been there, especially Brad. You showed up that night. I hope you enjoyed the film and learned a lot about how we are capable of being in Tomorrowland and have been in Tomorrowland for quite a mini decade. I'm sorry to say that. It's kind of freaky. But Yep, that's the way I know the world. You tell me how you know it, and I'll see you soon. Like I said, I'll be scheduling Chappie. I'll probably write something about Charlie Chaplin in reference. So, thank you, all kind friends, till the end, with or without these people. You too are this kind friend till the end, with or without your own people. Good night, good luck, and aloha.